Enki's journey to Nibiru. What's the first thing that comes to mind when I say that? Now, just a short while ago, I would have thought of Zecharia Sitchin immediately and said, oh, that must be one of the books that he wrote or a translation that he came up with. It's not. As a matter of fact, what you're looking at on the screen here are credits and copyrights for the actual project members at Oxford University. And there's multiple various Sumerian texts, of antiquity, as well as cuneiform. And I am going to go over with you guys the journey to Nibiru, Enki's journey to Nibiru. Now, it's your interpretation of what you want to make of it as what Nibiru is. But the Sumerians definitely talked about it, and the Anunnaki are absolutely talked about. There's a different word that's used in the translation, but it's very similar to the Anunnaki. And Enki and Enlil are definitely players. And check this out. In this translation, Enki is the son of Enlil. Now, for those of you that have heard of the Sumerian civilization, but maybe aren't 100% sure what the Sumerian civilization is, well, it's about a 6,500-year-old civilization, at least, that is from the southern Iraq area. And it's really unfortunate about all the stuff that was destroyed in the Gulf Wars out there. I wonder how much history that we should have access to that we probably never will now, because it's either been destroyed or given to some private collector or something, but I'm digressing. It's a 6,500-year-old, at least, civilization, very advanced with their writing skills and their scribing abilities. The records that they kept were immaculate, and a lot of the information that we have access to now, especially religious texts, have been connected to the Sumerian texts, such as the Epic of Gilgamesh, which I'm sure many of you have heard of, especially if you study the Anunnaki. How about the Atrahasis? I'm sure many of you have read that or heard of that as well. Well, we're going to take it a step further. This is literally called Enki's Journey to Nibiru. Now, it's not Nibiru, it's Nibiru is the actual translation. And I just showed you guys how many people were part of the team in doing these translations. So this isn't the translation of Zecharia Sitchin once again. If anybody leaves that in the comment section saying that this is a made-up construct of Zecharia Sitchin, well, this right here is proof you didn't listen to the podcast and you're just responding off of a title that you read. That happens a lot. So Enki's Journey to Nibiru translation. Now I'm going to show you also, let me move this over here a little bit. Nanu. I'll hide my face here for a second. You guys don't need to see me. So this is just a really cool depiction, in my opinion, of some of these Sumerian gods, Mesopotamia. Did I say that right? look at the giant bird creatures. And then you go back to Gopi Tepe. Once again, if I said, I'm sorry, you guys. I will study these words, so I'm extremely polished. But that specific structure that could be at least 12,000 years old has these bird people that essentially looks like they're creating man. Fascinating indeed. And then look at this thing. You've got this giant, looks like he's maybe, 20 feet tall approximately compared to the small little earthlings that he created with the will of life that might be Nibiru. And then you've got the guy above there that's dealing with the left and the right. You can see the, what do you call that? Not the yin and the yang, but essentially the puppet master for the whole, essentially. And here's what some think could be the genetic manipulation that was going on back then, pre-flood days. Very well could be a possibility. So, once again, here are the credits of this specific translation that I am going to read to you guys now, the Enki's Journey to Nibiru. All right, here we go. Nanu. Enki's Journey to Nibiru. In those remote days, when the fates were determined, in a year when An brought about abundance, and people broke through the earth like green plants. Then the Lord of the Abzu, King Enki the Lord, who determines the fates, built up his temple entirely from silver and lapis lazuli, its silver and lapis lazuli were the shining daylight. Into the shrine of the Abzu he brought joy. An artfully made, bright crenellation rising out from the Abzu was erected for Lord Nidiru. He built the temple from precious metal, decorated it with lapis lazuli, and covered it abundantly with gold. In Eridug, he built the house on the bank. Its brickwork makes utterances and gives advice. Its eaves roar like a bull. The temple of Enki bellows. During the night, the temple praises its lord and offers its best for him. Before Lord Enki, Isamud, the minister, praises the temple. He goes to the temple and speaks to it. He goes to the brick building and addresses it, temple built from precious metal and lapis lazuli, whose foundation pegs are driven into the Abzu, which has been cared for by the prince in the Abzu. Like the Tigris and the Euphrates, it is mighty and awe-inspiring. Joy has been brought into Enki's Abzu. Your lock has no rival. Your bolt is a fearsome lion. Your roof beams are the bull of heaven. An artfully made, bright headgear. Your reed mats are like lapis lazuli, decorating the roof beams. Your vault is a bull. Some MS have instead wild bull. I'm sorry. Some translations instead have wild bull. That was an excerpt that was put in there. Raising its horns, your door is a lion who seizes a man, is awe-inspiring. Your stairway is a lion coming down on a man. Abzu, pure place, which fulfills its purpose. E and Gura, your lord, has directed his steps towards you. Enki, lord of the Abzu, has embellished your foundation pegs with cornelian. He has adorned you with, there's a blank space there, and lapis lazuli. The temple of Enki is provisioned with holy wax. It is a bull obedient to its master, roaring by itself and giving abundance at the same time. E and Gura, which Enki has surrounded with a holy reed fence. In your midst, a lofty throne is erected. Your door jamb is the holy locking bar of heaven. Abzu, pure place, place where the fates are determined. The Lord of wisdom, Lord Enki, the Lord who determines the fates. Nidamud, the Lord of Eridug, lets nobody look into the midst. Your Abgal priests let their hair down their backs. Enki's beloved Eridug, E and Gura, whose inside is full of abundance. Abzu, life of the land, beloved of Enki, temple built on the edge, befitting the artful divine powers. Eridug, your shadow extends over the midst of the sea, rising sea without a rival, mighty, awe-inspiring river, which terrifies the land. E and Gura, high citadel, standing firm on the earth, temple at the edge of the Engur, a lion in the midst of the Abzu, lofty temple of Enki, which bestows wisdom on the land. Your cry, like that of a mighty rising river, reaches King Enki. He made the lyra, the algar instrument, the balak drum with the drumsticks, the lyre, the algar instrument, the balag drum of your sir priests. Your lyra and algar instrument, the balag drum with the drumsticks, and even the plectrum, the harhar, the sabatum, and the miritum instruments offer their best for this holy temple. The resounded by themselves with a sweet sound, the holy algar instrument of Enki played for him on his own, and 7 singers sang. Tigi drums resounded. What Enki says is irrefutable, is well established. This is what Isamud spoke to the brick building he praised, the E and Gura, with sweet songs. You guys see that? The little nano drones flying around. It's recording all of this. Tigi drums resounded. What Enki says is irrefutable, is well established. This is what Isamid spoke to the brick building. He praised the E and Gura with sweet songs. As it has been built, as Enki has raised Eridug up, it is an artfully built mountain which floats on the water. His shrine spreads out into the reed beds. Birds brood at night. See what I mean? The Anunnaki, they're here right now. They're saying hello, just in micro form. In its green orchards laden with fruit, the Sahur carp play among the honey herbs, and the Estub carp dart among the small gizzy reeds. When Enki rises, the fish rise before him like waves. That's an interesting analogy. What does that make you think of? Made me think of Jesus for some reason. And also it made me think of the depictions of these people that have giant fish on their heads, essentially. Like the sea, he is awe-inspiring. Like a mighty river, he instills fear. The Euphrates rises before him, as it does before the fierce south wind. His punting pole is Nira. His oars are the small reeds. When Enki embarks, the year will be full of abundance. The ship departs of its own accord, with tow rope held by itself. As he leaves the temple of Eridug, the river gurgles to its lord. Its sound is a calf's mooing, the mooing of a good cow. Moo! Enki had oxen slaughtered and had sheep offered there lavishly. Where there were no alla drums, he installed some in their places. Where there were no bronze oob drums, he dispatched some to their places. He directed his steps on his own to Nibiru and entered the temple terrace, the shrine of Nibiru. There it is, the shrine of Nibiru right there. And you were waiting for it, weren't you? You're like, okay, Rex, where's Nibiru? You put it in the title. There it is. He directed his steps on his own to Nibiru and entered the temple terrace, the shrine of Nibiru. Enki reached out for the beer, and he reached for the liquor. He had to have a few drinks, you guys. He had a long flight ahead of him. He had liquor poured into big bronze containers and had emmer wheat beer pressed out. In kookaroo containers, which make the beer good, he mixed beer mash. Nice. By adding date syrup to its... I don't want to do that to you, but man, I'm telling you, I warned it. You guys. It flew away. I didn't get it. Okay, where was I? Just got MK Ultra. Just got a harp on from Anchorage. Here it is. In the shrine of Nibiru, Enki provided a meal for Enlil, his father. See, that's another side, that's another twist, isn't it? Because aren't they supposed to be brothers? So in the shrine of Nibiru, Enki provided a meal for Enlil, his father. He seated An at the head of the table and seated Enlil next to An. He seated Nintur in the place of honor and seated the Anuna gods to the adjacent places. So instead of Anunnaki, it's Anuna. Anuna is the Anunnaki. All of them were drinking and enjoying beer and liquor. They filled the bronze aga vessels to the brim and started a competition drinking from the bronze vessels of Uras. Bronze vessels from Uras. Uras. Nanu. They made the Tilmada vessels shine like holy barges after beer and liquor had been libated and enjoyed, and after from the house Enlil was made happy in Nibiru. He was made happy in the house of Nibiru. He got drunk. Enlil addressed the Anuna gods, great gods who are standing here, Anuna who have lined up in the Upsu Ankina. My son, King Enki, has built up the temple. He has made Eridug rise up, come out from the ground like a mountain. He has built it in a pleasant place. In Eridug, the pure place where no one is to enter, a temple built with silver and decorated with lapis lazuli, a house which tunes the 7 TG drums properly and provides incantations, where holy songs make all of the house a lovely place. The shrine of the Abzu, the good destiny of Enki, the fitting, the elaborate divine powers, the temple of Eridug built with silver. For all this, Father Enki be praised. Boom! There you have it, ladies and gentlemen. That is the journey to Nibiru, Enki's journey to Nibiru. And this is not translated from Zechariah Sitchin. The Oxford University, the Faculty of Oriental Studies, the Arts and Humanities Research Board, the Leverhulme Trust, the University of Oxford, the British Academy, and the Hungarian Academy of Sciences. A multitude of people have been involved in this, and I will leave links to this specific text for you to enjoy. Now, what's your take on that? Because there's a ton of different scriptures and texts and translations, and people can come to their own conclusions. What is Nibiru to you now? And do you think that Enki and Enlil are brothers, or is that a mistranslation? Now, I'm going to do some serious digging, you guys. I'm going to get into various Sumerian texts and translations, and then I'm going to start comparing them to the Zechariah Sitchin information. And a friend of Zechariah Sitchin, somebody that used to be very close with Zechariah Sitchin, I have talked to personally off the record, and I can't say who, and I can't say exactly what, and everybody has an uncle that knows somebody. I get it. What I can tell you is some of the information that Sitchin was given was by incredible circumstances. Now, I can say that. By incredible circumstances, and let your imagination run wild. And let your imaginations run wild on who it was that actually told me this information. Who have I talked to that has actually worked with Zechariah Sitchin in the past? So if you're an incredible investigator, you might be able to put two and two together. Have a beautiful day. Question everything. And I'm starting to get pretty excited about these Sumerian texts and translations. I mean, it just gives you a whole new... It's like a whole new rabbit hole for me to dig deep into. And certainly, I'm not falling for any specific paradigm. I'm just gathering the data and coming to my own conclusions, because just because something's 4,000 years old or 5,000 years old or 10,000 years old or 40,000 years old doesn't make it right, doesn't make it any more true than something that we just do today. You know what I mean? There could be a National Enquirer that was written 50,000 years ago that had an agenda for specific people. Oh, well, how easy would it be to write texts and scriptures and stuff to make people look like gods that were really just powerful people with lots of money and power and influence? And then the future generations would see that as, oh man, that person was 50 feet tall, and he could turn lions into cyborg centaurs that had these superpowers, and laser beams came out of their a-hole. You're catching my drift here. Well, not that drift, because that probably wouldn't have smelled too good. Nanu. Wow. Did I just say that out loud? No, I'm just kidding. So let's keep doing the research into this and digging deep and finding out how much of this is actually legit. And here's another thing that I'm going to throw out there. This is completely off topic in a sense, though it kind of intertwines back, because Supertramp, the band Supertramp. I remember my parents listening to that band growing up as a kid. Amazing band. Love their music. Well, the Supertramp cover shows a plane heading towards the Twin Towers. And if you do a screenshot of that specific part right there, you'll see in the background, it's like a Sidzil, shows 9/11. And then one of their songs that they wrote was called The Crime of the Century, or something really close to that. What did they know? What did they know? Or whoever put that together, like, who is the producer of that cover? Who is the artist? And if an artist just designed something that somebody told him to, well, who told them to draw that? Because maybe the band didn't know anything. You know, they just came up with great songs, or maybe they did. Maybe a lot of these bands, like, literally the stuff that goes through their minds is either somehow activated via psychically or maybe some type of technology. There's too many coincidences and bits and pieces of evidence that you could put together and compile to just brush it off as conspiracy theory, in my opinion. And with that said, I will leave it at that. Leakproject.com. Become a premium member, you guys, and get access to exclusive content. And I've been taking this colostrum from getthet.com, and it is awesome. It is incredible. I've been doing a lot of exercise lately, and although I do about 12 to 16 hours a day here in the garage with podcasts, I'm still finding time to do at least an hour on the bike and at the gym. So check it out, getthet.com. That's my shameless plug. Have an awesome day. Be the change you want to see. That have heard of the Sumerian civilization, but maybe aren't 100% sure what the Sumerian civilization is. Well, it's about a 6,500-year-old civilization, at least, that is from the southern Iraq area. And it's really unfortunate about all the stuff that was destroyed in the Gulf Wars out there. I wonder how much history that we should have access to that we probably never will now because it's either been destroyed or given to some private collector or something, but I'm digressing. It's a 6,500-year-old, at least, civilization, very advanced form, and I am going to go over with you guys the journey to Nibiru, Enki's journey to Nibiru. Now, it's your interpretation of what you want to make of it as what Nibiru is, but the Sumerians definitely talked about it, and the Anunnaki are absolutely talked about. There's a different word that's used in the translation, but it's very similar to the Anunnaki. And Enki and Enlil are definitely players. And check this out. In this translation, Enki is the son of Enlil. Now, for those of you, Enki's journey to Nibiru. What's the first thing that comes to mind when I say that? Now, just a short while ago, I would have thought of Zecharia Sitchin immediately and said, oh, that must be one of the books that he wrote or a translation that he came up with. It's not. As a matter of fact, what you're looking at on the screen here are credits and copyrights for the actual project members at Oxford University. And there's multiple various Sumerian texts, of antiquity, as well as cuneiform with their writing skills and their scribing abilities. The records that they kept were immaculate, and a lot of the information that we have access to now, especially religious texts, have been connected to the Sumerian texts, such as the Epic of Gilgamesh, which I'm sure many of you have heard of, especially if you study the Anunnaki. How about the Atrahasis? I'm sure many of you have read that or heard of that as well. Well, we're going to take it a step further. This is literally called Enki's journey to Nibiru. Now, it's not Nibiru, it's Nibiru is the actual translation. And I just showed you guys how many people were part of the team in doing these translations. So this isn't the translation of Zecharia Sitchin once again. If anybody leaves that in the comment section saying that this is a made-up construct of Zecharia Sitchin, well, this right here is proof you didn't listen to the podcast and you're just responding off of a title that you read. That happens a lot. So Enki's journey to Nibiru translation. Now I'm going to show you also, let me move this over here a little bit. I'll hide my face here for a second. You guys don't need to see me. So this is just a really cool depiction, in my opinion.